characteristic impulse to smile and wave at them. Teddy had no such inhibitions. He almost fell off the porch waving as they filed by. This column didn't stop to ask for water, which had disappointed her young brother. Teddy was so unlike her. She had blonde hair and gray eyes. He had red hair and blue eyes. She smiled as she remembered the grandfather for whom he was a dead ringer. "Two of our Mexican cowboys admire Mr. Madero very much. They say Diaz is a dictator and that he should be thrown out," he told her. "I do hope the matter is settled before it ends in a total war," she said worriedly, "so that we don't get caught in the middle of any fighting. It worries Mama, too, so don't talk about it much, will you?" "All right," he said reluctantly. Airplanes, baseball, Mexican unrest, and the often related memories of his elderly friend Mosby Torrance were his biggest thrill at the moment, but he didn't want to worry Trilby with just how serious the situation down in Mexico was becoming. She had no idea what the cowboys talked about. Teddy wasn't supposed to know either, but he'd overheard a good deal. It was frightening to him. It would be more frightening to his sheltered older sister. Trilby had always been protected from rough language and rough people. Being in Arizona around Westerners who had to cope with the desert and livestock and the weather and the threat of rustling to stay alive had changed her. She didn't smile as often as she had back in Louisiana, and there was less mischief about her. Teddy missed the Trilby of years past. This new older sister was so reserved and quiet that sometimes he wasn't sure she was even in the house. Even now she was staring out over the barren landscape into the distance with that far-away look in her eyes. "I expect Richard is back from Europe by now," she murmured. "I wish he could have come out to see us. Perhaps in a month or so, when he's settled at home, he can. It would be pleasant to be in the company of a gentleman again." Richard Bates had been Trilby's big love interest back home, but Teddy had never liked the man. He might be a gentleman, but compared to these Arizona men, he seemed pretty anemic and silly. He didn't say so, though. Even at his age, he was learning diplomacy. It wouldn't do to antagonize poor Trilby. She was having a hard enough time adjusting to Arizona as it was. "I love the desert," Teddy said. "Don't you like it just the least bit?" "Well, I suppose I'm getting used to it," she said quietly. "But I haven't yet developed a taste for this horrible yellow dust. It gets into everything I cook," she said, "as well as into our clothes." "It's better to do girl stuff than brand cattle, I tell you," he said, sounding just like their father. "All that blood and dust and noise. The cowboys curse, too." Trilby smiled at him. "I expect they do. Papa, too, but never around us, only when it's an accident." "There's lots of accidents when you're branding cattle, Trilby," he drawled dryly, imitating his hero Mosby Torrance. He was a retired Texas Ranger and the ranch's oldest hand. Teddy looked at her, frowning. "Trilby, are you ever gonna marry? You're old." "I'm only 24, she said self-consciously. Most of her girlfriends back home in Louisiana were married and had babies. Trilby had been waiting patiently for 5 years for Richard to propose. So far, he was no more than a friend, and her heart was heavy. She might have been swayed if other young men had come courting, but Trilby wasn't beautiful on the outside, even if she did have a warm, gentle heart and a sweet nature. She didn't have the kind of face that set male hearts quivering, even back home. Here on a cattle ranch, there weren't many eligible men who were marriage-worthy. Not that she wanted to marry anyone she'd met in Arizona. She thought of cowboys as a lazy lot, and many of them drank and used tobacco and alcohol and never bathed. Her heart ached as she thought about how fastidious Richard always was. She wished they'd never left Louisiana. Her father had inherited the ranch from his late brother. He and her mother had sunk every dime they had into the place, and it took all the family, plus the hired help, to run it. It had been a dry year despite the floods, and ranchers were losing cattle across the border. All this trouble, Trilby thought,